Welcome to Marvel Vision, a podcast about Marvel, the MCU, and right now, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I'm Alex.
I'm Justin.
I'm Pete. I'm crying.
I'm crying. You're all crying. If you say, I'm not crying, you're lying. And if you're lying, you're dying. Anyway, I don't know. I got caught up there at the beginning. So we are, as mentioned, going to be talking about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I'll tell you what, spoilers right here. This is going to be a full spoiler review of the movie. We've all seen it. We assume you've seen it. If you haven't seen it in theaters, don't listen to this podcast unless you want to know full spoilers about it. I don't think we're going to necessarily walk through every single plot point of the entire movie. We are going to talk highlights. We're going to talk maybe lowlights. I guess we'll see. And we'll break down everything, including the end credits at the end of the movie. That mean big things for the future of the MCU, he said. Wink, wink.
I would argue medium things. And I'll tell you what, that's just the size I wanted. That's the size I ordered.
Before we get into that, though, as I always like to do with this sort of thing, let's talk about viewing experiences, because I think that really affects people's opinions on stuff. We've been doing that when we've been talking through the Marvel theatrical movies. Obviously, things have pretty much reopened, even though COVID is still rampant, so the theatrical experience is a little back to normal, I would say.
Yeah.
But curious to hear from you guys. How did you see it? When would you see it? What was the crowd like? Hit me up with the deets.
I was on a 3-hour conference call, and I was watching it over the edge of my laptop on the screen behind me.
Go fuck yourself.
I just said that because it makes Pete legit mad. It makes him mad. Look how mad he gets.
I would have jumped over rows of seats to attack you.
It's very funny that really gets you, because you believe it, and that's true. That's true to me, and it's enough of me, an indictment of me. No, I saw it 3 p.m. on Thursday. I saw
the first possible showing.
Whoa!
Yes. Up at Lincoln Center in Manhattan. The timing just came together. I got in there, and it was it's a fancy movie house. I was right in the front of the second section, which is my favorite
You don't have to
seat.
talk about how fancy it was.
Well, and that's not
it
a
was
flex.
$100 a ticket.
No, but the Lincoln Square
tore it.
Theater is like legit one of the best movie theaters in the country.
I agree.
And it's the kind of thing where it was just a convenient place. Like, I'm not a movie seat snob, but when I walked in, I was like, oh, right, this is fancy butt stuff I'm doing here. So I sat down on the leather and just took it for a ride.
Justin wants some fancy butt
Pete,
stuff.
what about you? What was your experience like?
I wanted a little bit more raucous experience, so I went for the 8 o'clock screening on a Thursday night. So
shouts to that. I love that too.
And how was it? Was it raucous? Did you get the full open night
there was a
experience?
lot of people there, and I wish I had saw it empty because I cried a lot. There was
and you
a
were
lot
the
of
only
moments.
one in the theater crying.
I wish I was the only one crying.
They're like, oh my God, how embarrassing for you.
There are times where you're like, yeah, and cheering. You want everybody to react. And then there are times where you're like, oh God, I'm crying a lot. I wish there weren't so many people around.
I love a group cry, very public.
Please keep the lights off for a little bit longer so I can get myself together before I leave the theater.
So I have seen this movie 2 times in the past 2 days.
2 times?
2 times is my experience.
2 times.
So
I almost went back.
Why?
Then I went back and rewatched.
So after the initial reviews came out, and I saw a bunch of critic friends tweeting about, like, this is not for kids. This is very serious, hardcore. It's very upsetting. And then you saw it, texted me immediately when you got out, Justin.
Truly, it was my first thought.
Yeah, you were like, not for kids.
I'm not reading Justin's text because I don't want to know nothing.
And my 8-year-old, who is obsessed with Marvel movies, I told him, I was like, hey, I just got a text from Justin. He says it's not appropriate. He's
Put it
like,
on you, Justin.
Okay.
He's
blame
blaming
me.
stuff
Hell,
on
he
you.
hates
No,
me.
but then a person that I know and trust versus just random critics on the internet
Don't trust Justin, apparently.
Hold on.
Exactly.
Told me that. And then Pete, after you saw it the next day, you were like, yes, absolutely, 100% not for kids. And my son was like, can you see it and just check? Can you just see it and check for me? And I was like, I really... If
so
this happens,
basically,
I do
your
not
son
want to
doesn't trust Justin or me at all.
No, but he wanted me to like see it and check the seeds and see if he would be okay with it or whatever. And I was like, I really don't want to see it.
Alex has said he's listening to the podcast. He knows not to believe our opinion. He wants to trust Dad.
You guys are just riling each other up, says my 8-year-old. Anyway, so I went to see it. I meant to see it as soon as possible, and through various family stuff, it didn't work out. So I ended up seeing an 8:15 movie on Saturday morning, which is probably not ideal.
I love that, though.
But it was nice. Like, woke up, went to the Alamo Draft House, just chilled out,
cracked a beer, 8 in the morning. Come on, let's do it.
But the one thing that was actually very nice to respond to Pete's stuff is there were not a lot of people there. So I was like, I feel very comfortable crying with nobody next to me.
Yeah.
So I went to see it. And here's the thing that I throw out at you. Like, first of all, for anybody, every kid is different, and you know this, and your own like threshold for what your kids can handle is your own thing. My take on it, just knowing my kids, was I was like, and we'll probably get a lot more into this, I think the movie did a very good job of intimating things instead of showing things, particularly when it comes to the animal abuse, which in certain realms makes it more upsetting, I think.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, but at the same time, what I know for my kids is legitimately they just get upset about seeing blood. Like, that's the thing that they get upset about. So what ended up happening was...
What happens when your kid's like, what happened to Lila?
I was like, well, sometimes otters get shot, man. I'll take you to the aquarium and show you what I mean. I should just take a quick
Daddy,
step back
where's
to emphasize why I had to do this is for one solid week since the reviews came out, he'd be like, can you see the movie? Can you see the movie? And like, legitimately Friday night before he went to sleep, he's like, okay, are you going to see the movie tonight? I was like, I don't know when mommy's coming home from work. I'm sorry. I don't know if I can see it tonight. And I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning and I was stumbling to the bathroom to go take a shower. And he ran out of his room at 6 o'clock in the morning. He was like, did you see it last night? No good morning or anything. Just, did you see the movie? Did you see Guardians of the Galaxy? So I didn't see it. So I saw it, felt like it was okay enough for my kids. And I talked to them about it, and I was like, I will sit next to you, and I will let you know when the scenes are coming up or anything like that. And he was
wait.
Good. Yes.
So let me get were you like, hey, listen, let's say I had this cuddly bunny, right? Would you be upset if it died right in front of you, if I just killed it?
Well,
would that
here's
bother
another
you,
thing.
or would you be cool with
I've
that?
been picturing Pete when I say this out loud. My son doesn't have emotional reactions to movies.
Wow.
He doesn't. And it's
I don't know if you should be bragging about that, bro.
No, I'm not bragging about it. It's very weird. He just does not have them most of the time.
Because maybe he's being scarred, and
he gets he gets upset about seeing things. He gets very upset about like language. So I kind of laid out for him without spoiling anything some of the stuff that would happen. But we went to see the movie this afternoon, and I sat next to him, and every once in a while I'd be like, here's a scene coming up where Star-Lord's going to say a bad word. And he was like, okay, thank you. And thumbs up. Or like, hey, something upsetting is going to happen with the animal characters in the scene if you want to look away.
With all the animals.
And he was like, oh, is one of them going to die? And I was like, yeah, just watch and see.
Try all of them.
And then he paused and he was like, are all of them going to die? So we watched the whole movie.
Including the adorable animals that are on a whole planet. Are they all going to die, Daddy? Yes, son.
Everybody's going to die. Except for the Guardians. They're fine. But the thing that I was kind of happy with and sad about at the same time at the end of the movie is he had an emotional reaction to a movie for the first time watching this movie.
Nice.
Where specifically he kept talking about, to jump into like specific plot points, the scene where Rocket is sobbing and screaming at the High Evolutionary after his friends have been killed. He was like, that was really upsetting. And I didn't want to be like, yay! Yeah. You did it. You had you emotionally connected with characters in a movie. But it was kind of good to see. On the other hand, my older kid was so traumatized by the entire movie she couldn't stand up at the end.
Wow. Wow, you really took a gamble with bringing your kids.
So sort of a half.
You lost hard.
Before, and it was like, are you going to be okay? And she was like, yeah, I'll be fine. It's no problem. And at the end, she was like, I can't move.
So sort of a half success, apparently.
Exactly. I traumatized only 50%.
Yeah, a W and an L.
So sorry to go on about that. It was just like a very particular experience.
I like that. And I think that's very like illuminating about the movie because
parenting styles.
And your parenting style. and just the way it affects people, because I also think I was upset for a lot of the movie for a wide range of reasons. Like, I feel like like this movie's upsetting I mean this positively in like 9 different ways. And so but I think it's also a more adult, higher level emotionality happening here, which is a huge credit to the movie.
While we're talking about emotions, can I just say this so I can emotionally get this rock off my chest and move on?
I know where we're going.
This could be huge.
No,
Okay.
I know what it is.
No, I'm just listing the parts where I cried.
Oh. I thought you were going to jump right into the Marvel flip. What's going on here? I feel like I need to.
Oh, hey, what is going on over here? What is happening?
I'll tell you what. I like this Marvel flip here with like showing off the Guardians of the whole history. Very sweet. They're overdoing it a little bit. Like,
hey, why you shut your face?
Well, you
shut your face. I love the additional thought that goes.
This is the last one they get for a while. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, I think that sort of like you, Alex, I actually like it when I see the other characters in the Marvel Universe in the flip and not the ones we're about to spend 2.5 hours with, because then I'm reminded that it's a tapestry that we're seeing here. And I don't mind like a joke or a nod, but when it was like all the Guardians, I was like, oh, yeah, all these guys we're going to hang out with for the next 2.5 hours.
Oh, yeah.
Also, I'll also throw out of you, like, not to get too grim, the 3 times I think about that they've changed it, maybe there's been more, and somebody can correct me about this, but after Stan Lee passed away, they changed the credits, so it was all Stan Lee, and I was like, oh my God, this is so emotionally effective.
Sweet.
And on Black Panther 2, after Chadwick Boseman passed away, they're like, all Chadwick Boseman, and I was like, oh my God, this is so emotionally effective. Yeah. And this one, I was like, these are fictional characters, guys.
Yeah.
Come on.
It was still a very touching
totally. And it is a goodbye to this franchise in some form, in some way. So I get it. But
do you think it was almost like served the purpose of like a recap page in a comic where it was a little bit, which that I would give them functional credit for that. Because it did do that. It was like, you're right, that. And it sort of was a nice bracketing the Marvel flip and the credits, which were all pictures from the previous movies, which I actually really liked at the end. Because then it was like looking back at the yearbook because we all just graduated from Guardians University.
And then there's that one picture that kind of pulled me out of it because I was like, wait, who are those old people? And then I was like, oh, it's James Gunn's parents. Okay, that was a cameo.
Which is so sweet.
Yeah.
There was also something with Groot holding a severed thumb, which I did not remember. Maybe that was
you don't remember that part?
Oh, it's such a funny
huge
moment.
Part of the second movie.
In Guardians 2.
They're asking him to bring stuff, and then he brings over a thumb, and they were like, what, dude? What do you...
Okay. Never.
Where'd you get the? And it was a great, just that was such a great sequence in that movie, and that was
really
the funniest.
I forgot about that. Yes, and also there is, while we're talking about that, a Stan Lee cameo in a certain sense, which was kind of sweet as well.
Yeah.
All right, Pete, list all the times you cried.
Okay, sorry. I just got to get this cry list off my chest, and then I'll be able to move on.
Is this in life you've cried, or just the Guardians movie?
Just this Guardians movie.
I was a young baby Pete LePage, born my first word, wah wah.
So I cried when Rocket got on the intercom and to tell everybody it was okay, and the Nebula stops in her tracks, and then I just immediately started bawling. And then I cried when they did the Yondu kind of flashback, and that really got me. And then I cried when Peter finally got to hug his grandfather, even though back in the first movie I thought his grandfather was a real dick to him. And then I cried when Gamora got hugs from the Ravengers and she was in her happy place. And then I cried when he said that he was done running. Rocket was done running, and and that was like a happy cry because they went into the slow motion kind of thing of like badass kind of walking.
It's Beastie Boys, man.
Yeah, I know. That was just. And then
right now,
but also just like the emotion of like, holy shit, this is the last one. Like as the credits were going, it was an extra cry.
Well, I cried at some of those points. I cried just randomly. There's something about the characters in this movie when they're together. They are always trying so hard and messing up. It just makes me emotionally. And ever since I became a dad, I cry way more than I ever did before. And I cried a decent amount then, so I cry all the time. But like when they're just trying hard and doing, which is the whole movie, I was like, wow, this makes me cry a little. But I'll tell you what really got me is when the line, Drax, you're not a destroyer, you're a dad. Oh, man.
That's number one cry point of the movie. Like I was definitely, my eyes were wet for many times.
I was sobbing. I was shoulder body. I was full body. Fortunately, the seats were big, so there was not to flex on the movie theater again. But the people around me had some space, so they couldn't see me going.
I'm a dad too. Oh God.
Well, but I think this again is getting into like actual plot points about the movie. But Drax's arc was so wonderful across this. And particularly, I didn't pick up exactly on this in the first viewing, but in the second viewing, pretty much everybody's arcs are laid out in that first scene. When they're going through nowhere and they're showing everybody from little things to big things, they're setting up the things that pay off at the end of the movie. Like specifically for Drax, Mantis is kind of dancing while she's painting nowhere, and then she turns to Drax, she's like, come on, why don't you dance? And he says, no, dancing is for stupid people, which obviously is playing off of the dancing thing from earlier movies. They've joked about that.
Good joke.
But that whole arc over the course of the movie where ultimately Mantis, even if she takes it away from him, she makes him forget, calls him stupid, and she's not saying it derogatorily. She's saying it positively about this is who he is and we love him anyway. And that ultimately at the end of the movie, he dances is him embracing that. He's embracing his own self. Being stupid. He's daring to be stupid, if you will.
Wow. Daring to be stupid.
But I think that's a really beautiful thing. Also, just the whole idea of he started at this place where he had lost everything and lost his family because of Ronan, and then transferred it over to Thanos to ultimately having 300 children that he's going to be taking care of is just beautiful.
Well, and like, agreed. Like, if we just want to talk about Drax, I mean, maybe my favorite character in this movie. Like, he gets to come through, be a badass, has the best jokes of the movie, sort of across the board, and then get to have this hero arc, huge emotional moment. The moment when first off, the only note I took for the whole movie was the line that I think Nebula says. They only know 3 words and 2 of them are Jub. really made me laugh. But when he speaks to the kids, I was like, great choice. Great to have him be on it. And then he, at the end, is so happy. He's this is probably the last we'll see of Drax, just because he's not Dave Bautista is not coming back to the role supposedly. So to have him have this great arc in the last moment, just like cutting loose to Florence and the Machine's just like great.
Yeah, I mean, that brings up a good point. The music again was just crazy solid. And
this was like watching MTV for an hour in the 90s and 2000s. It's crazy how many needle drops there were, how they were very effectively used.
Yeah.
And it only seemed a little gratuitous, but there was always, the next one was always good enough that I was like, okay, that one was worth it though.
Yeah.
He really knows how to make it work. I mean, that's because James Gunn thinks about the music and he writes to the music and he includes the music. You know, one of the big things that I was thinking about afterwards, both with that, and I know this sounds very wide ranging, but there's a lot of plot here. It's a character's first movie. Like, I think that's one of the big difference between this and a lot of the recent Marvel movies, as we've been criticizing them in various fashions and talking about them. I think this is the one that's like, all of the plot comes out of the characters. It doesn't work without the characters. It doesn't work if you don't care about them. 100%. And that's where it goes to. It's the same thing with the music. He's thinking about why he's using it. He's not just being like, oh man, wouldn't it be funny if they did this walk to No Sleep Till Brooklyn? It's perfectly timed out the way that it works, from the Peter putting in the music to being like, okay, we're going to do this action sequence, and everybody being like, I don't know about this, to them smashing through the wall on those giant beasts, and ultimately all crew it up, going into that room and having that amazing hallway action sequence. It's all timed out perfectly. Like you're saying, I think not gratuitous is a perfect word, because none of this feels gratuitous throughout this.
What was really interesting, and I didn't realize till I was watching interviews with James Gunn after this, that Rocket is his favorite kind of character, and this was kind of like his way in to this movie. He was really worried about Rocket being just kind of like this Bugs Bunny side character that didn't really fit. And it wasn't until he came up with his origin story that like a lot of things clicked for him. And so that was interesting to kind of, I felt like, you know, we got this in this movie, but to kind of say that like Rocket's the center character, I wouldn't have guessed that in earlier movies, but it's interesting.
Lila says it. She says it's been your story all along.
Yeah. And I would have not thought that would have been possible before seeing this movie, but I do agree with that. And the way that this movie, I mean, the Guardians has always been about like misfits, underdogs find a way to get through, and it was mostly through the lens of Peter Quill that we saw the first two movies. But with Rocket and this story and the High Evolutionary and what a maniac asshole he is, they picked the most possible underdog and the most possible overdog to be in this movie. And they didn't put too much juice on the villain. The villain just was a great villain that we didn't have to do a 30-minute backstory on. And I think it's basically the opposite of what's happening with Kang, where Kang is like, wait, you got to learn more about this guy, this multiversal version of this guy, and then garbage, and then we meet the next Kang. In this, it was like High Evolutionary. He's a bad guy. He has bad ideas. He's cruel, and he can't get over the fact that this raccoon came up with a better idea than him. Enough. It's just enough, and it's great.
I 100% agree. I'm going to horribly mangle his name, but the actor Chukwudi Iwuji, who was also in Peacemaker and was really good at that.
Yeah.
But I don't think you could have ever seen this. I think some of the acting choices that he made in this movie were so good. One of the scenes that just stuck with me, and I think a little bit of is the camera angle, but when the High Evolutionary is freaking out because what baby teen rocket, whatever it is, has suggested has fixed the evolutionary process, and he's just stumbling almost drunk to him and grabs him, throws him to the room, and he does the whole, how did you know I created you? How did you do this? I'm obviously paraphrasing terribly, but there's a way that he's doing that where like they film this shot in wide and he's just standing towards him in like this Lancers pose that's so aggressive but so holding back at the same time. Like there's just this, the way that he holds the body, the way that he uses his voice, it could have gone so horribly wrong at any point in the movie, and he modulates it perfectly. It
was a weird idea, but you know, it made me think a lot about James Gunn. A lot of his movies are about like fathers and sons and all of that. And we saw that very nakedly shown in Guardians 2. And that was sort of one of my least favorite parts about the movie, was how like direct it was. Like, dads are sometimes bad. And I was like, great. In this, I feel like, again, the opposite and done so smartly. It was like the High Evolutionary is the bad dad, but it's done in like a creator subject way as opposed to a direct father-son relationship, which was great. And then the stumbling in that scene made it feel like an alcoholic father in the wildest, most heightened stakes situation they could have created. And it's just really smart writing there.
Yeah. We should, by the way, by the end of the podcast, we should rank the Guardians movies where they are in our minds. We could do it right now
problem.
if we want to.
I'm ready.
Yeah. Justin, take it away.
3, 1, 2.
Wow. Pete?
Yeah, no. I'm gonna go 1, 3, 2.
You can't fall into the recency bias, but I'm Mr. Recency bias.
I agree with Pete.
You're all about the recency, but the one, it changed, like the humor of it, the tone, it really blew the possibilities wide open for Marvel, for what these movies could be and what they can accomplish, how weird they can be, how
100%. And I will say we could maybe talk about this later, but like I think Marvel took a lot of the Guardians formula and did it well, but then it also messed them up a lot in like phase 4 with what they thought they could get away with. But I also think, because I love 1 as well, but 3 is a harder movie. And the fact that it came off, it's harder the characters are further down the pipe. There's so many more characters they have to figure out and give arcs to. And they did it and still were able to hit the visual marks and make weird choices like Meat Planet and still crush it. Like
that's,
but I mean, it's also like we have, they're making funny choices, right? So in the first one, the climax is a dance battle. In this one, it's the face-off movie with Nicolas Cage and John Travolta kind of jokes. And I think it just, It's a little lighter. It's a lighter watch. It's also a ton of fun, and the first time that you're kind of getting this sense of music, and I don't know. It's just hard to. That's what got us here. We couldn't be, if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't be having this.
So let me throw out a couple of things just responding to that. One, I've seen a lot of people say this is the darkest Guardians movie ever. This is like a total slog. No way you're going to get through this. And to me, this felt like a Guardians movie, because if you look back at the first Guardians movie, first 5 minutes, his mom dies of cancer and then he's taken into space. And at the end of the movie, we're reminded of that when he's about to die, when he sees his mom reaching out to him. You cry at that point. The second movie ends with Rocket shedding a single tear because the only man who has ever seen him for who he is has died and is getting a heroic tribute. So like you get these moments throughout the entire series. This to me felt totally consistent with that in terms of that.
I agree. It's
just
very consistent.
More so. It's more so.
Well, it's more so, and the story points you just described about the first two movies are sort of the conventional tragedies. Like that's like classic fairy tale, like parent dies at the beginning, and that sets off the journey. This movie 3 was so unconventionally sad and unconventionally structured, so that we kept every time we flash back to a Rocket sequence of his growing up. I was like, oh no.
Yeah, I know. It was like, oh,
God. I don't want to give James Gunn notes or anything like that, but I know he's really into the music, like we talked about. What would have really helped those sequences for me if there was a little Sarah McLachlan, some Arms of the Angel type thing playing in the background.
Put that online and get 10,000 likes right now. Easy Twitter win right there.
All right, right after we get off, I'll do that.
I mean, just showing, if you put the sequence when they're playing that ball game and it's all fun, and just put the Sarah McLachlan song underneath that, that's viral, instant viral.
Oh my God, that's great. That would be so great for me, and I'd make so much money. I want to put a little pin in this discussion because I do want to talk more about the animal cruelty aspect of it, because I've seen some pushback online, I think. But I wanted to get back to what Pete was saying about the humor. This is something that we discussed back when we were talking about Guardians of the Galaxy 2 on the podcast, and I think I felt a little bit better about it the second time through. But the first time through, the one thing that put me off about the movie is how shouty everybody was. And I think, like we talked
like
about,
an old man.
Well, yeah, because I was like, whoa, my hearing aids are going off. Ooh, gotta turn these down.
It's too loud in here.
No,
get off my lawn, I say. Guardians.
I'm going to repeat what I said on the Guardians Galaxy 2 podcast, and I know you guys know this, but this is for the listeners. There is a modulation you can do in terms of humor, in terms of shouting. And there's a point when it goes from funny shouting to just screaming at people, where to me, it is not funny anymore. And Guardians of the Galaxy 2, one of the reasons that I don't like that movie as much as Guardians of the Galaxy 1 is that it's a lot of shouting at people, and they're making things that have the structure of jokes, but they don't quite come through in a humorous way because it's too loud and it's too sharp the way that they're delivering it. I feel like it was very similar with a lot of the jokes here. I, again, felt better about what the second time through when I was watching. I think some of the stuff softened because I was used to it and I was ready for it. But I still think there was a lot of screaming that went on at each other that made me feel like these people hate each other, not they're annoyed at each other, you know.
I love screaming, and I also think it's a great way of expressing yourself.
But you understand, you've done comedy live on stage
listeners
for
know
years
that.
and taught people. Yes.
Sorry for your ears.
Yeah, no, but you understand what I'm saying, right, Pete?
Yeah,
yes,
I do.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
So
I do think Peter Quill has this thing where he kind of yells things, you know, like when he's screaming at the the bad guy, he's calling him Skeletor, and he says, you know, you're like a purple nurple and a RoboCop, and he's screaming those things, and they're all hilarious.
I do think Chris Pratt actually did it better in this movie than a lot of the other folks. I think there were times in particular that Pom Klementieff, who is freaking hilarious, by the way.
God, so great in this movie.
And Karen Gillan, when they were shouting at each other, there was a sense of real hatred that came through.
Yeah.
That felt, maybe it was purposeful, but it took away from the humor of the moments the way that I thought they were aiming for.
And you can tell from the press conferences that they hate each other because they're super nice to each other and feel like they've known each other their whole lives.
Yeah, it's not a documentary. I know that. But anyway, that just getting back to the rankings thing, I think I agree with Pete because the first one to me is the funniest one, and then second and third, there's a little too much of that shouting. It gets a little too.
Suck it, Justin.
I stand by 3.
Yeah.
3 for me, baby.
The newest and shiniest always wins in Justin.
Here's a positive thing I'll throw out to get off that. The team dynamics in all of these movies, but particularly this movie, is phenomenal. The way that James Gunn balances everybody is great.
And that's hard to do with all these characters with all different ideas and sort of different character games. But the thing that I think James Gunn does well, and I think this really helps with what you're saying, Alex, is finds a way in the middle of a high-stakes situation to just do a great bit. Like when they're trying to get into Meat Planet, and Peter's trying to talk to Gamora, and he presses the wrong button, and the nonsensical comms glove thing. I thought that was so funny. And then it's just like a 90-second scene, all jokes, all hit, back into it. Great.
Yeah. That's great. And all the stuff after that, too, and just pretty much everything that happened in the Meat Planet was so funny. Nathan Fillion's character.
Oh, my God.
So good.
That whole thing, like, I got one of those too bit was hysterical.
Great.
That was great.
And I love they set that up, and I was like, oh, what a funny little toss. Yeah. This guy sucks. And then it became like a whole
character.
This whole thing, yeah.
So funny. That thing, them throwing their spacesuits into space and just Mantis being the only one seeing them drift by, also very funny. All that stuff was great. It was really good. Let's talk about... Oh, go ahead, Justin.
I was just going to keep talking, like the bit where Star-Lord fools the woman into giving him, I just want to say a couple things to these people, and then just sends their, I was like, great undercutting of where, because I was, after that love confession, I was starting to worry that Star-Lord, the whole movie was going to be sort of a sad sack. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was just a perfect time to flip him, and because he is good at his job. And they picked the perfect time to give him a win right there.
That was another thing I was really struck by this movie in particular is the sense of progression, not just in terms of emotionally of the characters, but in terms of knowledge. That a moment like that, or when Star-Lord, it is a very meta moment when he's yelling at the High Evolutionary, he's like, oh my God, I can't take another impotent maniac who just wants to take over the galaxy. They've been on so many adventures together. They know this stuff. They've got it down to that little twist where he keeps doing it's not a trap, it's a face-off. He's set up this stuff with Groot. They've done this a million times probably and pulled this bit. Mm-hmm. And I love that. I love that sense of history there, because even if we've only ridden with them for like 5-6 adventures, something like that, including the Infinity War and Endgame stuff, they have had a lot more things that they've done, and they know each other well, and they know how to work each other, and you get that in the movie.
Yeah. I also just really love like the attention to detail and the callbacks and the nods to everything. I mean, the fact that we have this kind of like, I don't want to jump all the way to the end, I guess, but just the fact that, like, you know, he risked his life for that just Zune, you know what I mean? And was just such a nod to when he dove out into space to save Gamora, you know what I mean? Where it was just like these fun.
It was that was like, another thing that was set up really nicely at the beginning, I thought, because when he's completely wasted and Rocket has the music, Rocket comes in and he's like, you stay away from that. That's not for you. I told you to get your hands off of that. And that's ultimately the journey that he goes on with Rocket at the end. Is he's giving him this captainship. He's giving him the Guardians of the Galaxy, and he's giving him his music and going back to Earth. So I thought that was very nicely done.
Well, and what in the moment did you think Star-Lord was dying? What's your heat check on that?
Every single moment with every single character, I was like, well, that's it. Legitimately throughout the movie, because like, and this gets into
there is another one, right?
Exactly.
You know, Dave is not coming back, so you're just like, oh, maybe, you know, this is going to be, you know.
Well, and I do think, and this is probably going to be a mistake for when all 3 of the Marvels die in the next movie or whatever, but I feel like we need to put this character is going to die thing away for a while, because
Agreed.
Guardians of the Galaxy, going into it, myself included, I was like, who's going to die? Which character's going to die? They're all going to die. None of them die. What was the previous?
That's how you walk into movies?
No, but that's...
He says it about people he's sitting with, too.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, this character's going to die.
I hate riding a train with him because he's like, that guy's going to die. This guy's going to be all right.
Conductor's going down.
I see their deaths.
Oh, my God.
But then the same thing happened with Ant-Man, where people are like, oh, it's the third Ant-Man. Scott Lang's going to die in this movie. Of course he didn't. In Doctor Strange, before that, they're like, oh, Doctor Strange is going to die. He didn't die. Like, we keep thinking it because we've been trained to think it for these sort of movies. They're not doing that.
Well, and I think one reason smartly is with the snap. I think a lot of people died with that snap. Okay, the blip with when all those characters died and then came back. It's like they just did that a lot. So not doing that again makes a lot of sense.
You were going to be like on Snapchat things that they only last a couple of and then
no, this is a crazy thing that I just learned is in the original draft of Infinity War, Thanos said, with one Snapchat of my fingers.
Yeah, he turned him into Snapchats, and then ended up
he became
Snapchat
a dancing hot dog. And,
oh man,
they're like, it didn't work for the
Snapchat
audience.
reference.
Didn't work for the audience. But no, I mean that seriously. And it's also just a better choice. It's a better movie that they lived, but they're off the board for future movies because they're raising 300 alien children in nowhere. Like I would much rather think that's what they're doing.
How great would it be to get to grow up in a giant, empty, floating head in space? I mean, what a life, Yeah.
In a way, aren't we all in a giant floating head in space?
True. Whoa.
That's true. But did you think... Did you really? I thought Star-Lord was dead right there.
I thought Star-Lord was going to die at that moment. I thought Nebula...
I loved his line, though. Like, did that look cool? Like, that was such a funny bit.
Great rule of three.
Obviously, it looked horrible. It was
Plus
so
friends.
Funny.
Plus, it just made them friends. And when you're with your friends, you have lines like that where you're like, I mean, we certainly do. We say them all the time. But, like, when you're like, there's just a million of them. I love it.
The moment when Nebula is like, I'm the only one who could pilot the ship and everything exploding. And she's like, give me your comm. I was like, well, that's it. That's Nebula's going to do the goodbye speech at this point. And then she did it. She was just like, I have to go. And she was fine. The moment. And
Nebula was awesome in this movie.
So good. Let's get into her in a moment. I just wanted to mention the moment when I thought Mantis was going to die. And I'm really glad they didn't go with that.
What is your deal?
That would have been crazy.
No, when the 3 battery-eating beasts, the way they set that up and the way they paced it out, I was so sure
it was just going to be
that she was going to reach out and he was going to and eat her. But
that would have been particularly reckless with a character that has become such the emotional core of these movies and the character we ride with. Star-Lord is pulled off a little bit, I think the right choice. And Mantis is who we ride for here in these movies, in this movie and in the Christmas special.
Who you ride for? I'm Rocket all day, bro.
Well, we could probably talk through all of the other characters. We've touched on Drax and Star-Lord a little bit at this point. Why don't we talk about Nebula, because she did such an amazing job of this movie.
Oh, my God. And that whole scene...
As a real person. I want to be clear. I'm talking about the real person Nebula did a great job of this.
Yeah, agreed. That whole scene where she's in the elevator and, Quill is recapping all the things that happened. And then she just kind of goes, well, he's, taking some liberties, but that's basically it, was just so amazing. And then that whole part where she's looking at Peter and he's doing the, like, you have beautiful eyes moment. And she's like, just like, just perfect. Just was so well done.
Well, they found a way to warm her up with the group.
Which is hard to do because she's playing this like robotic killer who is a horrible sister. Every time she grunted at her sister, my heart was just swelling.
Of course, you loved it. I know. I feel like you're going to start grunting at your brother or us from here on out. Yeah. But I was going to say, like, they found a way to make her love them, but also hate being around them. That's very hard. That's so family. Yeah, but that's family.
Yeah,
that's
exactly. Yeah,
and they pulled it off in this movie. It's great.
So good. Everything that she did, I thought was great. And like you're saying, just the development of her over the course of this movie there's a seismic leap for Nebula in particular that I think is informed by the fact that she bonded with Tony in Infinity War and then up into Endgame. And same thing with Rocket, though a little less so. We don't quite get this in this movie, but I think that allows them to grow her in a way, because if you think back to Guardians of the Galaxy 2, she was still kind of a villain there. Like, she had a catharsis with Gamora.
She ratted him out. Yeah.
Exactly. But ultimately, she jumps forward in a big way here. And I love where she ends up, too.
She smiles. Oh, man.
Oh, my God. Oh,
Really
my
great.
God. Yeah.
That got me, like you were talking about, the moment when she cries when Rocket is okay.
Oh, dude, she stops and I just lost it.
So
I really wish there weren't so many people who could see my shoulders moving, because it was just like, oh my God.
Well, and she also had some badass moments too, like whatever that angel suit thing was, with the hand cannon. That has to be some anime reference that I completely missed, because that feels like what that is.
It's Battle Angel. Yeah.
Is it Battle Angel?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Great.
That was cool.
That was very cool. And also in the hallway fight when her head gets knocked off and she's still fighting.
I was like, oh.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I mean, while we're on that hallway fight, they really, like, we knew there was going to be a big fight, and it could have been easily a throwaway thing, but they really upped how they shot that, the close-up action following, because it was sort of almost like the plussed up, the evolved Pokemon version of the Avengers fight in the first Avengers, when they pass off the battle. They did that, but it was all so close up and so, like, just it was seamless in a way that I never, like, lost focus on it.
It kind of reminded me of like a Daredevil like hallway fight, where you're just like, oh, this is so enjoyable and so
That's
well
everything
choreographed.
reminds you of that.
Yeah. Every time you go into a hallway, you're like, is Daredevil here? Is he
Are we going to fight? Yeah. Let's do it in
I
one
wanted
take.
to say that I feel like every movie, or at least every superhero movie involving a team, has lived in the wake of the first Avengers, and not just that fight scene where they're zooming through and checking in with everybody, but that shot of them all assembled where the camera is spinning around him, that iconic shot.
Yeah.
Everything has felt derivative of that pretty much since.
Yeah.
The one exception, I think, is the Guardians of the Galaxy series, where James Gunn has found new visual iterations and new ways of showing these moments that don't feel like he said at any point in the room, we got to do that Avengers thing that they did.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that look cool? Instead, it feels like something new. It's that, and also that last fight with the High Evolutionary, where you think it's just going to be Rocket versus the High Evolutionary one-on-one, and then everybody's there and taking him down in their own way. Phenomenal. It's the whole team working together, all doing their own stuff, but it doesn't feel like I'm watching Avengers again.
Yeah.
What other characters should we talk about? We mentioned Mantis a little bit. Anything else that we want to say about her?
What a come up for her just from the second movie through this Christmas special into this, where she's such a comedy driver. Her and Drax, like, messing with each other is so fun. Great dynamic.
It was weird when they were going separate ways at the end of the movie. I was like, no, you guys stay together. I like you guys together.
Well, do you feel like that's motivated, specifically Mantis leaving? I wrestled with that a little bit. I think I end up on the positive side, but I'm curious to hear from you guys.
To me, it felt like she's still on the board for use in another Marvel movie or TV series, while Drax is less so.
It was a badass walk away, though, when she like walked away, and then those two giant monsters from the second movie were rolling with her.
Hypothetically, she could end up on Earth in some sort of Star-Lord limited series, hypothetically. Since they are brother and sister, it would make a lot of sense for her to show up with an idea of something they had to do.
Yeah, potentially.
Put it down in the permanent book. I win that one.
So one thing that we haven't really talked about at all, we mentioned Rocket, but we didn't really go through Rocket's storyline.
How could you, after we just lived such a trauma? Like, it feels weird to kind of then do it again. You know what I mean?
It was so good, though. All of those characters were so good. I love those characters from when I first encountered them reading Incredible Hulk. I think they were in the Crossroads saga is when he encountered them, or something like that. Whatever it was a very early issue of Incredible Hulk. And you have these, they're basically like funny animal characters in space. That's pretty much all they are in the comics. But Rocket Raccoon. I think he was called Walrus instead of Teefs. And all of these other characters. Lila was there, of course. They're very different to the comic books, but I really loved them and I enjoyed them. I think the riff that they found here was so beautifully done. It reminded me instantly of Sid's toys from Toy Story.
100%. Yes, not the same thing.
Where it's like these broken things that look horrific at first, but as soon as you get to know them, you fall completely in love with them.
Well,
Whoa. Not what I expected.
Okay,
you don't
bombshell
like
from the podcast. Pete, what are you saying here?
Pete doesn't like Spider Rabbit? You don't like
Spider Rabbit? I never really. I was yo, it freaks me out.
Floor?
The Saw Spider Rabbit is, you know what I mean? Like, rabbits are adorable, but spiders, nah. So it was a weird combination for me where I was like, Floors, you know what I mean? Like, you stay over there. Yeah,
see, Teefs is the one. Teefs is the one where I was like, this guy's not going to make it. As soon as I saw him, I was like, you think those wagon wheels are going to make it onto the Guardian ship? No way.
Oh. The way that storyline rolled out, the way that it was filmed was so beautiful. The scene where they're playing tag to Since You've Been Gone.
Oh my God.
That got me right in my heart. That was great. And frankly, it's devastating, but the way that they paced out that escape scene with Rocket and his friends leading to their deaths was perfection. Yeah. Like it was perfectly executed across the board. Awful.
So good. So heartbreaking. The fact that later when he comes back, the key card still works. And he encounters the baby raccoons, like looking his past self in the eyes. I was like, man, they got me. I didn't see the key card thing coming. Him keeping it as a promise to himself that he has to go back and close this loop and get his revenge and, free everyone that's there. I thought I didn't see it coming at all, and it was emotionally so resonant by the end.
Here's another positive shout out I want to give to this movie is right after that moment, he looks up at the nameplate, and after
the raccoon, and he finally realizes
it, and they played this bit not just throughout this movie, but all of the movies at this point. Him saying to the High Evolutionary, "My name is Rocket Raccoon." That was another point that got me. And it got me not just because it works in the movie, but also because we have seen so many of these movies and scenes where they like hold back on the name of the character because they think it's dorky or whatever. They do the thing where he's like, well, sure, I dare as a devil. I guess my name is... and then it cuts to Daredevil at the end, and you're like... just say the name, whatever, it's fine. I've never felt that at any point with Rocket Raccoon. You just accept that his name is Rocket, but it's so satisfying at the same time to hear them say that out loud. So fantastic. What other characters should we talk about? We didn't really mention... Oh, go ahead, Justin.
We probably should talk about Adam Warlock, a huge comic book character introduced in a surprising way. And I'll throw my lot in first. Like at first I was like, I don't know about this. This is not quite what I want. But by the end I was like, this is what I want. I like the swerve on it. I like that they brought back the Sovereign to give us Adam Warlock in a way that felt like coincidental in a smart way. And then when he saves Quill at the end, I thought just another way that the Guardians, the way they live, influenced this villain in the smallest way, and it saved Quill's life.
Because Groot saved him.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I was thinking about you while I was watching it, Justin, because I know you love Adam Warlock.
Love Adam Warlock, yeah.
I have no emotional connection to Adam Warlock whatsoever. He just always seemed like the golden guy who came in comic book crossovers and be like, all right, now I'm gonna figure this out. And I was like, I don't know, I don't have any.
Well, he's always this mystical, like high thinking galaxy character who's like, well, if you trust me in Infinity Gauntlet, just epic arc, great introduction. I loved him in all the series that Adam Warlock in the Infinity Watch. Great, which is very Guardians of the Galaxy-esque in that it's like a team of misfits featuring Gamora trying to make do. And so when I first saw he was just like such a doof. I was like, what are we going to do with this doof? How is this going to be part of this? And they pulled it off.
Yeah, they sure did.
having no connection to him, I really liked him throughout. I liked, like you said, the connection to the Sovereign. I think having the High Evolutionary, I thought they tied in really nicely, having these two villains in a way that I was not expecting. And I think that worked together nicely. They also paced him out really well throughout the movie. That was something that I was much more aware of on the second viewing, where just having him pop up at infrequent points reminds you he's there, ultimately leading up to the saving of Peter Quill. And he's great. And Will Poulter is great. So I'm excited to hopefully see more of him in the MCU.
What's very interesting to me is you going back to see it a second time, because it's like, I'm like, okay, I got to be ready again emotionally to do this. Were you a little nervous? Yeah. Were you nervous about emotionally going back in to be like, oh, man, am I going to be able to, like, were you worried that you were going to cry at different spots at this, like, you know what I mean?
I was definitely like, I don't want to be sobbing in front of my family necessarily.
Oh, man, I cried for my kids all the time, to the point where they're like, why are you crying all the
time? Well, my wife and daughter took care of all the crying for us. They were just like sobbing next to me the entire time. But to my son, I had a mission. I had to be like, I have to focus on this, know when the points are coming up that he's going to be upset about. So it helped a little bit. Oh, okay. But definitely when we got to the dad, you're not a destroyer, you're a dad line, I was like, don't look at him.
Don't look at my
son. I'm going to ruin this moment.
My little jubs right next to
you. We haven't talked about any of the stuff with Kraglin or Cosmo.
Oh my God, Cosmo was so great. Yeah,
very fun.
Kraglin also, like, the fact that he's kind of like taking over with the whole kind of Arrow thing was just such a fun choice, and the way it kind of came together was just, oh man, really.
It finally made sense that the Arrow was very powerful. I will say, when he figured it out and he could save Nowhere, I was like, how are they gonna? There's like thousands of these robot animals coming at you. There's no way they're gonna win. And then I was like, oh, the Arrow, perfect.
Yeah, and then he finally called Cosmo a good dog, which is very sweet.
My God, that was also such a fun bit.
Yes,
I thought that was such a, like, at first I was like, oh God, is this going to keep going? But they did such a great job with that bit. It was just so well done. And then finally when he gets the good dog, oh my God.
How about Gamora? We haven't talked about her.
Gamora. Wait, I did want to mention one more before I forget thing about Kraglin and Cosmo. This is kind of about them, but the moment that I lost it the first time that I saw it in the movie theater was Nowhere coming through the jump point and to attack the ship, just having this awesome giant skull thing versus the giant ship. That was rad. And the
cool.
gun,
that got you? That made you cry? You were like, oh my God,
it didn't make me cry. That was the moment where I was like, yeah, clapping in the theater. Okay, it was so cool. And having the cannon coming out and being like, first, whatever they said, like first bit, second bit, third bit, fourth bit. It was great. Super fun.
Did you guys see it in 3D, by the way?
No.
I did. Why don't make that face.
No.
I enjoy a little extra.
Yes. Oh, one more thing.
Wait a second, because there's a really fun part where Nathan Fillion's like flying at the audience in 3D. It's an extra.
Did you try to kiss him when he was coming towards you?
Yeah, it flew right over him. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
There's a flash on screen. Kiss Nathan Fillion now.
Kiss cam came up.
Well, you guys missed it because you didn't get it in 3D, so you didn't get the kiss cam action.
Oh, man. I just wanted to mention the poker game just as like a little Easter eggy thing that I thought was very fun, just because it paid not so sneaky tribute to all three of the movies. You had Howard the Duck there, obviously, which is great. Good to see him again. You also had the lead singer of the old 97s who popped up in the holiday special. And there was also, I'm completely forgetting the character name, but the guy they were trying to sell the orb to in the first Guardians of the Galaxy was there as well. So very fun. I felt like it was just a way of being like, yeah, let's bring these guys back too. We're finishing off the trilogy. Throw some extra characters in there. It was nice.
Yeah, they did a really good job of kind of recycling characters from stuff.
Well, and we saw a lot of other comic book Guardians characters. The little sort of dog type alien that hangs out with Adam Warlock is very much from the comic book. Martin X, who's like the diamond face guy who we saw in the second one. The red sort of dragon-y guy is a comic
Who
book
uses
character.
the Doctor Strange portals.
Yeah.
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 And
So
Sylvester
lots of cool.
Stallone, who's a classic character from the comics as well.
Exactly.
Tiny role for our guy, but fun to have him, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
James Gunn was doing a good job of bringing back his friends from other movies. I mean, like we saw a lot of DC kind of like crossover stuff.
Daniela Melchior is the one who played Uta, or whatever her name was, the one who was helping them out. Also, one of James Gunn's very good friends, his wife, Jennifer Holland.
It's a good way to put that. It's another word for wife.
Beautiful.
Really good friend.
Yes, exactly.
Buddy, really.
Yeah. I'll just mention, just because we're talking about this in the podcast, it is so weird to me that people online are upset that he cast his wife and stuff. That's very strange. It's like,
who are you defending about that?
I'm sorry that his wife is a pretty good actress who is very beautiful, who he loves hanging out with and spending time with on set. I'm sorry. That sounds terrible.
Yeah, unless you're like very close with an actor who was up for the role and it went to his wife, then maybe you got a little grudge. But otherwise, let it be. I'd say. As long as he doesn't cast his brother in anything.
Yeah.
That would be the worst.
That would be the worst.
Yeah, if his brother played 3 different roles or something like that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Gamora since you brought her up. How did you feel about how she was used in this movie?
Well, here's the thing. Since the holiday special, I have been really hoping that they would get back together. But the fact that they made this choice that she really did die, and this is a completely kind of different version of her, I liked the way that they played that. I still wanted more, but I felt like it was a smart enough choice where I wasn't super angry about it. You know what I mean?
What I liked about it is that you could see her sort of falling for him again, and they did it in a background, very subtle way. They almost kiss. I like that they didn't.
Yeah,
I like that it's like we started the rom-com in the middle of the movie and didn't get far enough along to get to the end. And sometimes that's how it happens in real life. And the fact that that's where we got, it's opened the door for more. Everybody's alive. I don't think we're going to see Gamora back again unless there's some sort of extreme. Zoe Saldana has said she doesn't want to play Gamora anymore, but it's on the table perhaps. So I liked it, even though it was perhaps not your rom-com ending, Pete.
Yeah, I felt like it was a tough watch. I appreciated the thought that they put into it, but that Gamora spent the entire movie being like, I don't want to be here. Please let me go. I want to leave. I don't know any of you people. Stop talking to me. Leave me alone. It was a lot of, to talk in comedy terms, like it was a lot of no but, it felt like at times.
That's fair.
Which made it rough. But I agree.
I like
with
the
you.
reality of that choice, though. You know what I mean?
I think it panned out nicely because, like you were saying, Justin, it is a smarter choice emotionally for both characters rather than having her be like, suddenly I have all of my memories magically from the original timeline and I love you and I'm back in the end. Instead, we do get, like Pete mentioned, that lovely moment to the end with Ravagers where you realize, oh, she has this whole other story going on. That's why
she has this whole nother,
exactly. And it also emphasizes this smarter thing for Peter in terms of they keep telling him over the course of the movie, go back to your home. You don't need a relationship. You've been drowning yourself in all of these other things instead of facing your problems. Do that instead. So I don't know. I thought it was nice. Again, tough to watch, but just because something is tough to watch or complicated doesn't necessarily mean it's bad.
True.
Yeah. What other notes do you want to call out from the movie?
I really think I just wanted to say, like, I really think of the sign of a good kind of like end movie, capper movie, is the fact that you immediately want to run around and go watch it again. And I really had this feeling like after this movie, I went and watched the holiday special. I then went back and watched the first one. I think
then watched Ted Lasso and then watched the second.
Yeah, exactly. But I just think it's one of those things where it's a really great sign of a great ending that makes you want to kind of go back to the beginning so you can kind of do it again, you know? And I just wanted to say that this movie does achieve that.
Should we talk about a couple post-creds?
Let's do it. Can I mention one quick thing from the movie that I think made me laugh out loud the loudest? This is the first time I think I have ever laughed at anything Pete Davidson has ever done. The little horrible pink blob creature that Mantis lets go when they're freeing everybody towards the end of the movie. Pete Davidson does the voice, but just having her scream and then see that blob creature, and the way Pete Davidson says "cow" made me laugh.
Gotcha.
Wait, you're talking about the one where Palm is talking to that horrible creature, was like, I wasn't looking at you, I was looking.
Yes, yeah, I think it's called Lamb Shank or something.
Yeah, no,
that.
that's the director. That's
no, that's Pete Davidson. Pete Davidson does the voice.
I thought it was Gunn himself did that voice.
I don't think so. You want to look it up?
Yeah.
All right, you look that up. We'll talk about the post credits in the meantime. I hope it's God, because then I'll successfully never have laughed at anything Pete Davidson.
Your dream, your early dream. We get a new Guardians team out on the prowl, which was fun.
Right. Yeah, I think that's just sort of. I didn't take that as like, and here we go. This is the team for Guardians 4. Okay. So much as Rocket's happy. Continues. Exactly. The mission continues. We got to see Phyla Vell in here.
Very cool.
I think in the comic book continuity, she is an alternate universe version of Captain Marvel. Is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
It says James Gunn is Lambshank.
Who did Pete Davidson play then, Pete?
I don't think Pete Davidson is in this movie.
He definitely is in the movie.
Okay. Let me find out.
Yeah, okay, you lock that up. So we get that first credit sequence, very fun. We get an enormous Groot here. Oh, by the way, we didn't talk about Groot at all. You don't care.
Well, he was too violent, I thought. I didn't. Well, that was my one criticism is like they go out of their way to be like, well, let's not kill these certain people. Let's rescue all these animals. And then there's a point where Groot's like, and Star-Lord like, let's kill them all. And Groot kills all of them. I was like, Jesus, unnecessary.
Yeah, I was kind of cool with all the guns and everything. And then flying Groot was fun as well. That was pretty cool. The moment at the end, though, where Groot says, I love you guys. Great moment there.
Pete Davidson played a character named Flecktick, which I think is the character Alex is describing.
Well, that's the thing. There are two sources, and both are saying Lambshank. One is saying Lambshank is played by James Gunn, and then this other source, The Guardian, is saying Independent website is saying that this describing the exact same thing, but not calling it Lambshank. Saying how you said it, Justin, is played by Pete Davidson.
By the way, I don't want to spoil too much.
But I remember the credits and seeing during the movie, it's saying Lambshank, James Gunn, because I was like, oh, shit.
By the way, this is me injecting some audio that I recorded after the podcast. The next hour of the podcast is us reading articles to figure this out.
We're journalists.
Whatever it is. I don't know. Let's not spend too much time on this. The line at the end, I wanted to mention, I said about Groot, where he says, I love you guys. Yeah. So my immediate impression of that, which I was very happy to find out was correct because James got it confirmed it immediately, not to me, to other people, is that we are hearing that because we all are part of Groot's friend group. We are all friends. We are all family.
Oh my God, I'm gonna cry again.
I know, right? Isn't that great?
We speak Groot by the end.
Yeah, we speak Groot because that was the whole thing that they were playing out, particularly over the course of this movie, and they paid it off because
Gamora does have a nice yelling line where she was like, "I know, stop saying your name," or "I know your name," or whatever. It was a fun.
And the offhand way she does it when she finally understands it at the end is so lovely. It's great.
Yeah. But that final post-credit sequence.
Ooh, we get to find out that Star-Lord is going to be mowing somebody's lawn and he doesn't like it.
Well,
what do
you
you think
also
that
get
means?
there's
Star-Lord
nothing
will
like a
return.
little cereal chat in the morning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, first of all, about that scene, I think the basic idea here is that he went from saving the galaxy multiple times to he's sitting and eating cereal with his grandpa, talking about mowing a lawn. That's the whole bit. Like, that's the whole thing.
And then
But-
you say something to your grandpa, and they're always like, don't get me started.
Yeah, there's also a fun little Easter egg there on the newspaper where they shout out Kevin Bacon being kidnapped by aliens, which shouts out to the holiday special. But we do get that title to the legendary Star-Lord will return. I think you called it out, Justin. They have an opportunity to do a great Disney Plus series where Star-Lord is on Earth and he's telling everybody, yeah, I saved the galaxy a bunch of times and nobody cares.
Yeah. So I feel like that could be a fun comedy with some action elements. Could be just a straight comedy. I think also if they committed to just it being like small town Star-Lord, it would be very fun. But my gut says it'll be start there and there'll be some sort of perhaps Mantis inspired adventure that they have to go on.
Yeah.
I also think, it's rare where you get kind of like one thing ending and another thing beginning. I'm excited about this new Guardians team. I think it's a very cool team. And I was like, oh, yeah, I want to see more adventures with these new guys. This seems awesome.
Well, it's definitely an open question whether we will get any more movies in the Guardians franchise. Normally, you would think, as we're taping this, it did, I think, $114 million over the weekend, something like that, which is not fantastic by Marvel movie standards, but it's fine. I do think this movie is going to have legs because it has really positive word of mouth, so it'll continue for a while.
I wonder if it didn't do as good because it's not as kid friendly. Like if it would have been.
I think there's a bunch of different factors there. If I'm going to put on my box office head, I don't know what that meant. One of the.
Listeners, it's horrifying to watch him switch heads.
I do think one thing is Marvel fatigue and superhero and comic book fatigue. That's certainly a non-insubstantial
What is
factor.
that? I don't even know what that means.
Not to you, but to the general audience, they're like, they've kind of moved on to other things. So there's that. There's also Marvel fatigue in terms of people have not particularly loved the past bunch of Marvel stuff that's necessarily come out. There's also a general feeling of like, oh, the Guardians again. People didn't love the marketing for it. They felt like it was kind of more of the same. But I think people are going to hear this really is a concluding chapter to the trilogy. It has great emotion to it. Love the movie. So again, I think like it's not going to drop 70% to the next weekend. It's going to stay around for a little while.
Yeah. It's got to be a good movie if all three of us loved it. You know what I mean? That doesn't test. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
The funnier thing, if you want to talk about box office, is that Chris Pratt has been dominating the box office for the past couple of weeks with the Super Mario Brothers movie. Now he's going to be dominating the box office for the next couple of weeks with Guardians of the Galaxy before he transfers it over to Vin Diesel for Fast 10, who Vin Diesel is, of course, does the voice of Groot. All the cast, they're doing it. They're really doing it.
Yeah, Aquaman's also in that movie.
Okay.
That's true. That's when the baton gets passed.
Yeah.
Great. Well, we haven't done this one in a while. We're sort of already touching on this, but why don't we go to our vision board and talk about what we think is going to be next for the Guardians? If anything, we've talked a little bit about potentially what a legendary Star-Lord series could be like. Do you see these characters popping up anywhere else?
I could see the new team, Guardians team, popping up in as we get into the larger crossover Secret Wars build up. I bet we'll see them there.
That would be awesome. Yeah, I would love to see them in other kind of like cameos and stuff. But man, a TV series dedicated to them would be amazing. 3 or 4 movies with them in it would be really fun. I'm all in, man.
I think we'll have to see what happened. Bob Iger, who is heading up Disney right now, has been kind of negative about the idea of ongoing series going on.
Whatever,
forever.
Bob.
There you go. So we'll have to see what happens about that. I also think with the pullback on Marvel content, there's less of a chance that we'll see a Guardians 4 like 2 years from now from a different director or anything like that. Yes, Pete.
I have a question.
Yeah, what's
So I feel kind of weird saying this out loud, but I feel like I'm in a safe space. Hopefully, you guys won't be too
Yes,
mad
I
at me.
will marry you.
I love you too, Pete.
Well, weird that that's where you guys went. So there was a big deal about swearing. I didn't notice where the swear happened. I didn't even.
You didn't hear it?
I swear so much in real life. It
the
didn't
thing
even.
that my son hated more than anything else and talked about the entire
I
walk
was
home.
like, when did it happen? I was looking forward to it. It was one of the things I was like, yeah, we're going to swear. I'm going to feel like myself in this. And I didn't even, it happened and went, and it didn't even.
I will say I was surprised why they did it there. Is it close the fucking door when they're
it's get in the fucking car.
get in the fucking car. It's when they're on the Animal Planet. and
Yeah. She's doing trying to get, figure out how doors work in the 80s.
I thought it was like just a throwback to being a kid and like your parent being like, get in the fucking car, we gotta go.
Yeah, that's probably why it didn't even, because that was my whole
That
childhood was getting yelled at like that.
Because they had to fight for that. They had to put that in.
No, they didn't, actually. So a little bit of backstory about it. This was from an interview with James Gunn. Apparently, there was an F-bomb that the Russos wanted to put in Avengers Endgame. I don't know exactly where that is. I should have looked it up. But basically, Kevin Feige
I think
said...
Captain America was going to say, fuck, I'm holding this hammer.
He was going to say, Avengers fucking assemble.
Yeah.
They were going to put it in. Apparently, it played really well with audiences. And then they thought about it. And Kevin Feige was like, hey, this is going to be the first F-bomb of the MCU. And they were like, oh, we don't want that to be our legacy. And then James Gunn on set, when they were doing this, he fed the line to Chris Pratt when they were filming the scene. He was like, just do a take with this. Just do a take where you say, get in the fucking car. And we'll probably cut it later. And they did it, and they thought what he said about it was, he was like, sometimes stuff is funny on the day, and it's not funny in the cut later. But they put this in the cut, and they were still laughing out loud about it. And Kevin Feige came to him, and he was like, okay, it's your choice. This is the story with the Russos. They didn't want this to be your legacy. And James Gunn's reaction was like, if you think telling me that is going to make me want to put this in the movie less,
Yeah,
you
you're
don't
insane.
know. Yeah.
It's the opposite.
That's funny.
So there you go. So that's why he
And
put it in.
probably, at least for a while, his last Marvel movie.
There you go. Yeah. Well, definitely for a while, his last Marvel
Yeah.
movie. Just talking about the Guardians characters, and then we can kind of wrap up here. I do think they're going to want to use Chris Pratt at some point, regardless of whether he's drawing in people for the box office for these movies or not. He's like the top box office earner other than Tom Cruise right now. So they would be dumb not to use him in some way. And like you were saying, I think a series there would be very fun. In terms of the other characters, I don't think we're going to see them until like a Secret Wars or a Kang Dynasty or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's true. They could maybe Doctor Strange situation if we get more of that. But
maybe they zoom by them in the Marvels or something. I guess we'll see. It would be nice to see them again, but for now it is goodbye to the Guardians. If you all would like to support this podcast, patreon.com/comic book club. Also, we do a live show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. to Facebook and YouTube. Come hang out. We would love to chat with you about Marvel, Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, or the app of your choice to subscribe, listen, and follow the show at Marvel Vision Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Okay. Oh my gosh. Comic Book Club. I'm crying again. comicbookclublive.com for this podcast and many more. Until next time, stay marvelous.
Pete, once you start crying, you're never going to stop.